Welcome back to the radio. What time is it on your end, and where are you listening from? A quiet upstairs room, a living room with the fan on low, maybe curled up somewhere soft. However the evening finds you, I'm glad you're here. If you'd like more nights like this, subscribe to Quilloren Radio and let us know where you're tuning in from. Tonight, you are a milkman in 1956. More families have started buying from the store instead. You still walk the same porches, but some haven't left a crate out in weeks. At this point, you're pretty sure you've been ghosted by the Hendersons and their dog. Without further ado, let's begin. The engine idles with that familiar low grumble as you ease the truck to the curb. It's barely light out, not dark enough to be night, not bright enough to be morning. Just that in-between time when the sky is a dim bruise of blue and the world feels paused. You reach for your gloves without looking, fingers finding the worn leather like they always do. The crate beside you rattles softly, glass against glass, one bottle clinking off another in a way that's oddly comforting. Your first stop is always the same. White House, blue shutters, slanted porch. Mrs. Greeley. She still puts out a note, folded and wedged into the neck of an empty bottle like a tiny paper flag. Today, it says simply, 1 extra for the church potluck. You nod to no one, make the swap, and straighten the line up like you're posing them for a photograph. You've been doing this so long your hands don't need supervision. The boards on her porch creak like polite old men shifting in their chairs. There's a radio murmuring behind the front window, some scratchy hymn playing too low to follow. You pause for half a second, just to listen. Then you step back down, careful not to let the crate swing. Back in the truck, the seat springs sigh beneath you. You ease into gear and roll forward. The streets are still mostly empty, just a few porch lights glowing and a scattering of newspaper bundles that haven't yet been taken inside. Everything smells like damp pavement and frost. Somewhere a dog barks, but not at you. Not yet. Second house, no crate. Again, the walkers used to be regulars. 4 bottles a week, every week. Then it dropped to 2. Then 1. Now nothing. You still slow down out of habit, just in case. But the porch is bare. You give it a glance, like you're checking on an old friend who stopped calling. Then you drive on. You used to know every stop by heart. Now the route feels a little threadbare, not empty, but thinner. Like a well-loved coat, you notice, is fraying only when the wind cuts through. You keep going. There's comfort in the motion, even if it's quieter than it used to be. Next house. New customers. Young couple. They've got one of those metal coolers on the porch instead of a crate, fancy, with a hinged lid and a note taped to the top. It reads, "Please don't slam. Baby sleeping." You open it carefully, set the bottles in with a kind of reverence, and close it like it's made of glass. You've never seen the baby, but somehow you always picture it giving you a disapproving look. The morning is unfolding slowly. You make your way down Maple Street, then onto Birch. Trees are still dripping from a light rain overnight, and the truck's tires hiss softly with every turn. You've got your route mapped in muscle memory, but you still glance at the clipboard now and then, just to be sure. Not that the streets have changed, just the people. You stop at a house that always smells faintly like onions. The bottles are waiting by the door, neatly rinsed. You swap them out and give the cat on the steps a nod. It doesn't move. It never does. You've begun to suspect it's ceramic, but you're too committed to the daily acknowledgement to check now. Further down the block, there's a new addition to one lawn, a plastered deer with eyes that follow you a little too well. You try not to stare, but it wins. For a second, you imagine it whispering the names of everyone who switched to store-bought. Then you shake it off and climb the porch of a regular. The crate is there, but it's only half full. Used to be 6 bottles, now it's 2. You notice the note tucked under one of the empties. Kids moved out. Just me now. Thanks. You pause for a second, reading it again. There's nothing special about it. No plea, no complaint, just a simple truth. You add 2 bottles, take the empties, and leave the note right where it was. The next porch has a rug that always trips you. You lift your foot high, like you're stepping onto a stage, and make the delivery with a little extra theatricality. No one sees it, of course, but the habit stands. On the corner of Pine and Threerd, there's a house with no crate, no light, and a flyer for A.P. fluttering under a flower pot. You don't even slow down. That one stopped months ago. Still, you feel the weight of its absence each time. Like a missing tooth, your tongue keeps checking. You stop for coffee in the usual spot. Not a shop. Just the side of the road under the same oak tree you've pulled under for years. You pop the lid on the thermos and let the steam rise into your face. The truck ticks quietly, engine settling. You sit back and take a slow sip. It's not good coffee, but it's hot, and the bitterness feels appropriate. The road is quiet. A few cars pass, mostly heading the other direction. A kid on a bike gives you a wave without looking, too focused on keeping his handlebars straight. You wave back anyway. Old habits. You finish the cup, slide the truck into gear, and move on. At one house, someone's left out a tray of cookies next to the crate. A note says, "For our favorite milkman, you allow yourself one." Just one. Oatmeal raisin, because of course it is. You smile, chew, and consider whether the raisins are actual fruit or just very confused chocolate chips. Either way, it's still warm, which feels like some kind of minor miracle. You keep going. The morning is getting brighter, and so far, no one's yelled about skim milk. You call that a win. You ease the truck down Sycamore Avenue, where the houses are wider apart, and the hedges try a little too hard to be symmetrical. These are the newer ones, built after the war, with carports instead of porches and mailboxes that lean a bit, like they're not sure they belong yet. Some of these families signed up for delivery right away, proud to have milk brought to their doorstep like their parents did. Others never bothered. You still drive by, just in case. The sky has softened from steel gray to a pale, indifferent blue. The sun is thinking about rising but hasn't committed. Street lamps flicker off one by one like they've remembered they're not needed. Your tires crunch softly on gravel. You roll past a house where a woman is watering her lawn in slippers, curlers still in, robe tied halfway between practical and philosophical. She waves with 2 fingers. You nod back, one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the crate beside you like a co-pilot who doesn't talk much anymore. Most porches don't have crates now. Some never did. But a few still do, and it's like finding a coat hook in the dark that's exactly where you left it. One porch has 2 bottles returned, one with a daisy in it. No note. No explanation. You take it anyway, flower and all, and place it gently in the wire rack behind your seat. You're not sure what to do with it, but tossing it feels rude. You pass a house where the wind chimes are missing a piece. They sound like they're clearing their throat every few seconds. The effect is oddly polite, like the house is about to ask you for a favor. Next door, someone's put up a plastic Santa. In August. You give it a glance, then look away. Maybe it's a bet. Maybe it's just optimism. Either way, you approve. There's no rush today. Not because the schedule's different, but because fewer stops means longer silences between them. You don't mind. There's something steadying about the quiet. You hear things more clearly now. Tires rolling, glass clinking, birds that apparently don't sleep. And the occasional dog, of course. Some bark because that's their job. Some bark because you're wearing a hat. And one in particular barks like he's personally offended by dairy. You pause at a corner where the city has finally patched the pothole you've been bouncing over for years. It's jarring in its smoothness. The truck glides where it should jolt. You frown slightly, then keep moving. A house ahead has 3 crates stacked, like steps leading up to the door. You remember when they used to take 6 bottles a week, big family, lots of cereal. You haven't seen anyone come or go from there in a while. But today, there's a single note tucked into the top crate. Thanks for sticking with us. That's it. No name, no request. Just acknowledgement. You leave a bottle anyway. Whole milk. It feels like the right kind of reply. The route turns down a side street where the trees hang low and the sun flickers through the leaves like it's trying to stay hidden. You like this stretch. One house always smells faintly like toast. You've never seen anyone go in or out, but you're convinced someone lives there because the lawn is always mowed in perfect lines. You once heard a laugh come from inside. Just one. But it was enough to prove it's not abandoned. There's a crack in the sidewalk in front of house number 412, shaped uncannily. You step over it as always, and make your delivery. Someone's left a pencil in the crate, as if they started to write a note and then changed their mind. You pocket it without thinking. Maybe someone will need a pencil later. Maybe you just collect things now. At another house, the porch steps are loose. You know exactly where to place your foot to avoid the worst of the wobble. It's a dance you've done for years. You could do it in the dark, and once you did. The house still has a bell on the door. Not electric, a real bell. You hear it jingle inside as you set down the milk, and you picture someone in slippers pausing over toast, wondering if they should wave. They don't. They never do. Your next stop has ivy creeping up one column, slow and quiet and determined. The crate is empty, but someone has drawn a smiley face in the dust on the windowsill. You add 2 bottles, wipe your fingers on your pant leg, and try not to smudge the smile. You fail, slightly. It becomes a wink. You don't fix it. You take a longer route back toward the main road, passing a house that used to be a barber shop. The pole's still there, but faded, like it's trying not to draw attention to itself. You delivered to that place once. A single bottle. The man inside said he liked the sound it made when it hit the counter. Then he never ordered again. You still remember that bottle, how it clinked against a comb jar when you set it down. Back in the truck, the crate beside you is lighter. You glance over and see the daisy bobbing slightly with the movement. You consider putting it on the dashboard, but decide it would just get dusty. Instead, it sits in the crate like it belongs there, and maybe it does. You roll past another supermarket. Bright signs. Big windows. Posters about freshness and price cuts. A kid wheels a shopping cart back into the stack. The cart wobbles, squeaks, and then slides into place with a sigh. You wonder if the milk inside costs less than yours. Probably. Maybe that matters. Maybe it doesn't. You don't blame people. Stores are convenient. Cold cases are full. No waiting, no early wake-ups. You wouldn't choose the porch either, probably. But part of you still feels the difference. Milk from a store just sits there. Milk from you arrives. And for a few porches, that still matters. You turn down a street lined with tall oaks, the kind that drip sap and drop branches without apology. The houses here are older. So are the crates. Some are patched with wire or tape. One is painted lavender. You stop at each, set your bottles down gently, and pause, just for a second, before turning back to the truck. The morning is warmer now. You take off your gloves, flex your fingers, and listen to the bottles shift softly in the crate beside you. Still a few more stops to go. The house on Bellevue Street is one of your oldest stops. Not the oldest in age. The siding's been repainted, and there's a newer model Plymouth in the driveway, but oldest in consistency. They've never missed a week. Never skipped a note. The handwriting is always the same. Neat, slanted, cautious. Usually just the word thanks, and once, in December, a Merry Christmas underlined twice. You pull up slow, almost reverent. The truck idles low as you reach for the crate with 2 bottles, 1 whole milk, 1 buttermilk. They always order both. No changes. No surprises. The porch is raised with 3 narrow steps, each one groaning in a different tone. You've come to expect it. First step, low and hollow. Second, sharp and creaky. Third, doesn't make a sound, just shifts a little under your weight like it's thinking about saying something but never does. The railing wobbles slightly, wrapped at the base with twine that's been there as long as you can remember. The front door has a window, but the curtain behind it is always drawn. You've never seen inside. To the left of the door, a wooden bench sits in the corner. It's built into the porch wall, painted the same pale green as the siding. The paint's chipped in places, but the bench is clean, dusted, always dry. That's where the empties wait. 3 glass bottles lined up in a row, rinsed, labels facing out like they've been arranged for a photograph no one will ever take. And beside them, always, the cat. She's gray. Might be blue, depending on the light. Her eyes are the kind of yellow that suggests she knows more than she's telling. You've never seen her leave that bench. Not once. Every day, same place, same posture. Like she's been assigned to watch over the porch and takes the job seriously. You set the new bottles down gently, making sure they're stable. The crate squeaks just a little. The cat flicks one ear but doesn't move. You glance at the window. Nothing stirs. You never knock. Never have. There's no reason to. This stop isn't about conversation. It's about continuity. Sometimes, standing there with the bottles, the soft creak of the porch behind you, and that cat watching like a supervisor, you feel a kind of quiet you don't get anywhere else. Not silence. It's not that empty. Just quiet. Contained. Settled. You rest one hand on the porch railing. The twine itches through your glove, but you don't let go right away. Something about the porch always slows you down. You think of your mother's house. The smell of varnish. The way the screen door used to slap shut too hard, no matter how gently you tried to guide it. She used to sit on her own porch in a chair with a fan and a glass of milk sweating on the armrest. You didn't understand why, then. Milk was just milk. Now, years later, you stand on someone else's porch and deliver glass bottles to a quiet bench and a silent cat, and it all makes perfect sense. You step back, 1 foot at a time, each creak exactly where you expect it. Back at the truck, you glance again at the window. The curtain hasn't moved. It never does. But you always look. Some mornings, the sky reflects in that window just right, and for a second, you see yourself cap low, collar up, crate in hand, looking like someone from an old photo. Someone who used to do this job when the houses were smaller and the porches more crowded. You don't feel nostalgic exactly. Just accompany it. Like there's an older version of the world walking beside you, still doing its rounds, just a few steps out of sync. You sit in the cab for a minute before starting the engine. The bottles clink softly in the crate behind you. The cat still hasn't moved. Maybe it's asleep. Maybe it's just efficient. A breeze moves through the trees, lining the street, rustling leaves that haven't decided whether to fall yet. The morning is warming up, but slowly. The engine hums again as you pull away from the curb. 3 houses down, you stop briefly to check your clipboard. No delivery. Just routine. You like to be sure. On the passenger seat, your pencil rolls slightly, tapping the edge of the bench seat. You remember that note on the last stop, the single word, the underline. You think about writing something back someday. Just a word. A small one. Maybe. Still here. There's something about that porch, the arrangement of things, the careful consistency, that feels like an anchor. Not a heavy one. More like the kind you drop in shallow water just to keep from drifting. Not because you're in danger. Just because it's good to know you're held in place. You think about that bench more than you probably should. About who sits there when you're not around. If anyone does, maybe it's just the cat. Maybe the cat is the homeowner and everything else has been a misunderstanding. You shake the thought off, but not completely. It stays in the background like a radio too far away to reach, but still humming. As you make your way back onto the main road, your mirror catches a final glimpse of the porch behind you. Green siding, quiet bench, pale curtain, unmoving cat. Everything exactly where it's supposed to be. You pull the truck to a stop under the shade of a tall elm near the edge of town. The sun has fully arrived now, warming the tops of mailboxes and curling the edges of yesterday's newspaper left on someone's lawn. There's no next delivery for another 20 minutes. Nothing scheduled, nothing urgent, just space. So you cut the engine, lean back in the seat, and let the quiet spread. The hum of the engine fades. What's left is softer. Birds, distant tires on wet pavement, and the slow creak of your seat as you shift your weight. You remove your gloves and set them on the dash, palms up like they're drying in invisible sunlight. The fingers have molded to your hands over the years, and they lie there like they're still working, still gripping glass. The truck clicks softly as it cools. That ticking sound always reminds you of evenings, not mornings, because of the way it signals the end of motion. But here, in this in-between hour, it becomes something else. Not an ending. Not a beginning. Just a breath. You rest both hands on the wheel, not to steer, just to feel its texture. The rubber is worn smooth at 12 o'clock, pitted slightly at 10 and 2. You've held it for so long it feels more like a railing than a control, something you steady yourself against, rather than something you use to move forward. The crate behind you shifts slightly. One of the bottles taps the wooden side, a A single note of glass on wood, then nothing. No clinking chorus. No jostling. Just one clear sound, then stillness again. You don't turn to look. You know exactly which bottle it was. Outside the truck, the elm above you sighs in the breeze. Its leaves tremble, not in panic, but like someone remembering a tune they haven't sung in years. Sunlight flickers through in broken spots, making small moving shadows across the dashboard and your arm. You watch the pattern shift, like you're waiting for it to settle into something legible, a message maybe. But it doesn't. It just moves. In this moment, you're not the milkman. You're not anyone. You're just sitting in a quiet truck on a quiet road, not thinking, not planning. Just being. That's something you didn't expect to be good at. And yet here you are. Still. You let your head rest against the seat. The vinyl is warm from the sun. One of your boots is pressing into a soft spot on the mat, where something must have spilled and dried long ago. You wiggle your toe and feel the faint stickiness through the sole. You should clean it, probably, but not now. The radio doesn't work anymore, but the knob is still there. You run your finger across it. Dust lifts, floats, disappears. You think about turning it anyway, just for the motion of it. But you don't. There's no need. The silence is full enough. Somewhere nearby, a door opens. A screen door, by the sound. A single footstep, then two. Then nothing. Maybe someone came out to check the weather. Maybe they were going to get the mail and change their mind. You wait a moment longer. No footsteps return. The house goes quiet again. You reach for your thermos out of habit, then remember you finished the coffee 2 stops ago. You hold it anyway, let it rest on your leg. The metal is cool now, and slightly damp with condensation. You wipe your palm against your pant leg and set it back down gently, like it's sleeping. The bench seat sighs again as you adjust your posture. One leg stretches. The other folds slightly. Your shoulder rests against the doorframe. You let your eyes close, not to sleep, just to lower the volume of the world. Breath moves in. Lingos. Moves out. You don't count, don't measure. You just breathe. The stillness doesn't ask anything of you. It doesn't require reflection, or presence, or even gratitude. It just is. Like the dust in the air. Like the way the glass bottles line up in the crate behind you. Like the sun warming the roof of the cab. There's a comfort in knowing you don't have to perform for it. You just sit. You open your eyes slowly, not because anything has changed, but because the world is still here. The trees still sway. The sidewalk still curves. A bird hops from the curb to the grass, pecks once, then flies off without fanfare. Your fingers rest on your thigh. You notice a thread in your pants has come loose near the knee. It curls like a tiny question mark. You think about pulling it, then decide not to. It can stay. Everything can stay. From where you're parked, you can see 3 houses. One has a tricycle tipped over on the lawn. One has a flower box, where all the blooms are orange, except for one stubborn purple. The third has nothing out front at all, not even a doormat. You don't judge. You just look. You think briefly about what this street must have looked like before the sidewalks were poured, or before there were trucks, or before milk came in bottles. But the thought passes without staying. This isn't a time for history. This is a time for being still. Your breath slows again, without you telling it to. Your pulse thuds gently in your wrist. You rest your palm flat on your leg and feel it, not fast, not slow, just steady. Like a background hum you forgot was playing. A carpas. Not fast, not loud, just a presence moving from one frame to the next, then gone. The breeze returns, warmer now. It carries a faint scent of grass, engine oil, and something faintly sweet. You try to name it. Muffin? Soap? The last trace of someone's cologne? You decide not to name it at all. Better to just let it be. You let your neck roll gently side to side. The stretch is satisfying, not dramatic. Your spine hums with the kind of relief that only comes from having carried something all morning without complaint. You didn't notice the weight until it was gone. Then you sit again. Just sit. The world is soft around the edges. Nothing sharp. Nothing loud. The kind of quiet that folds over you like a blanket left out in the sun. Eventually, you'll need to turn the key again. Shift into gear. Check the clipboard. But not yet. Not now. Now. There is only this moment, and it does not ask you to be anywhere else. If you've made it this far and you're enjoying the story, I hope you'll consider subscribing to Quilloren Radio. Every night, we're here with a new, quiet story and soft rain to help you drift off. Leave a comment and let us know where you're listening from. Now, let's keep going. There was a time, not long ago, when your mornings started differently. No clinking bottles. No chilled crates. Just a paper hat, a scuffed counter, and a drawer that never quite closed all the way. You worked at a diner off Route 12. Not a famous one. Not even a busy one. Just a narrow building with fogged-up windows and a sign that blinked "Eats" in tired red letters. You didn't plan to be there long. Nobody ever does. It was a stopgap, something between other somethings. But time has a way of getting comfortable. One day you're learning where the spatulas go, and the next you're the only one who knows which coffee pot still leaks and which pie tin warps in the heat. The mornings there weren't quiet like they are now. They were loud in a soft way. The clatter of dishes, the hiss of eggs hitting the griddle, the distant thud of someone knocking snow off their boots by the door. You learned how to slide between tables without brushing jackets, how to hear a refill request before it was spoken, how to smile without showing too many teeth at 6 a.m. There was a rhythm to it. A dance. You moved through that narrow kitchen like you belonged there, because for a while, you did. Not in a way that showed. You weren't the heart of the place, but maybe the spleen, unglamorous, necessary, slightly underappreciated. You weren't bad at the job, but you weren't exactly good at it either. You broke more than your share of plates. You never quite learned to fold the napkins the way the owner liked. And you had a habit of zoning out by the coffee station, staring at the drip and forgetting you were supposed to be scraping toast crumbs off the counter. But you showed up. You wore the apron. You burned your fingertips on hot plates and never made a scene. That counts for something. There was a regular who came in every Thursday, older guy, always sat at the same stool, always ordered the same thing, black coffee, no food. Said he already ate. Never said where. You didn't talk much. Just poured the cup, wiped the counter. But once, when you dropped a fork and winced at the sound, he said, "Don't flinch. Fork's fine." And then he nodded, like that was all he came to say. You think about that sometimes. You still flinch when things fall, but maybe a little less. The diner had a way of smelling like bacon even on the days when no bacon was cooked. The kind of smell that clung to your clothes, your hair, your breath. You didn't notice it at first, but other people did. A woman at the post office once told you she could tell you worked around griddles. In a good way, she said, which of course made it worse. You never dreamed of staying there. You had other ideas. You were going to learn carpentry, or go work at the docks, or maybe fix radios. Something with tools. Something with parts. You even bought a manual once, Basic Electronics for Beginners. It's still in a drawer somewhere, pages warped from being read next to a sink. But the milk route showed up instead. A friend of a friend knew a guy whose cousin was retiring. You went to meet him in a parking lot behind a bowling alley. He gave you one look and said, "You got a decent back?" You nodded. That was the interview. And just like that, the rhythm changed. No more eggs and forks. Now it was rubber boots and cold mornings. Fewer people, more quiet. And the bottles, smooth, cool, always needing a place to be. You didn't realize how loud the diner had been until you started hearing the creak of each porch step. The shift was jarring at first, but over time, it softened. You began to notice the things the noise had covered up, the way condensation forms a line across a windshield at dawn, the way mailboxes groan when they lean too far, the way houses hum faintly from the inside, when it's very cold and very still. And you didn't miss the noise. Not exactly. Sometimes, in moments like this, parked between deliveries with nothing in your hands, you remember the smell of that old diner. The way the sunlight came through the windows in streaks, painting dust onto the counter. The clock above the register that always ran 5 minutes slow. The way the napkin dispenser squeaked when you filled it, no matter how carefully you tried. You remember the waitress with the chipped nail polish who once said she was moving to Phoenix. You never found out if she did. You remember the jukebox that didn't work, but that everyone still leaned against like it might play something if they hit it right. You remember the pie case that always had 3 slices left over, the same 3, like a standing invitation no one ever accepted. None of those things are important, not really, but they're part of you now. Not as regrets. Not even as memories you carry deliberately. More like impressions left by sitting in one spot too long. The shape remains, even after you've moved on. And now here you are, in a different kind of morning, with a different kind of rhythm. Bottles, crates, porches. No coffee refills. No jukebox. But still a kind of dance. Still a kind of purpose. Just quieter. Just yours. The truck creaks slightly as you shift your weight again. A bottle rolls an inch, then settles. A crow barks in the distance, hoarse and bored. The past is still there, a few steps behind, watching without judgment. You check the clock on the dash. It doesn't keep perfect time, but close enough. It's time to drive again. You feel it before you notice it. The way the cold glass settles against your fingers when you lift another bottle from the crate. Not harsh, just definite. Like a reminder. You're standing on the short gravel path that leads to the Langley house, and there's a patch of sunlight on the grass to your left, round and oddly perfect, like a spotlight that missed its mark. Your boots crunch over pebbles. The path curves slightly, like it's trying to make up its mind. The porch steps are wide, shallow, painted yellow years ago, and never again. You can still see the brush strokes in some places. And then the scent hits you. It's faint, tucked into the breeze, powdered sugar, oil, and something warm. You know it instantly. Donuts. The homemade kind. Fried on a stove that's slightly too small for the pan. Not bakery donuts. Not boxed, real ones. Made in a kitchen with a cracked linoleum floor and a radio that plays only 2 stations clearly. And just like that, you're not on the Langley path anymore. You're 10 years old again, standing in your grandmother's kitchen. It's Sunday. You know it's Sunday because that's the only day she made them, like it was an agreement she had with the week. The window was open because she never trusted the fan, and the screen lets in just enough noise from outside to remind you it's morning. She moves around the kitchen in her faded robe, sleeves pushed up. The stove clicks, then roars to life with that sudden bloom of gas flame. You're still in pajamas, barefoot. The tile's cold. Your job, and she's very clear about this, is to stay out of the way until she's ready for you. But you hover anyway. Elbows on the table, chin in your hands. The oil is already heating. She drops the dough in one piece at a time, careful, quick. You watch it puff and curl. You think of sea creatures. She uses tongs to turn them. There's a rhythm. You'd call it graceful, if you had the word for it back then. There's music on the radio. Static mixed with something old. A trumpet, a woman's voice, the faintest hiss of vinyl even though it's not a record. Your grandmother hums along without knowing the words. When the donuts are done, she sets them on a wire rack, balanced over a baking tray. You've seen her do it dozens of times, but it always feels like luck when they don't fall. Then comes the sugar. She keeps it in an old tin labeled coffee. You're not sure if it ever held coffee. The sugar is fine, not the powdered kind, but close. She pinches and sprinkles. You lean in. 1, she says, holding up a finger without turning around. Just 1 for now. You nod. But she gives you 2. You take them outside and sit on the steps. It's still early. The sun's low, slanting across the neighbor's yard. You hear a dog somewhere, a lawnmower starting up, a screen door slapping shut. The donuts are warm in your hands. You bite into 1, and sugar dusts your knees. The middle is just slightly underdone, which is perfect. You wouldn't know how to describe it, but you know the feeling. It's the taste of a Sunday with nowhere to be. Your grandmother calls from the kitchen, asking if you want milk. You don't answer. She brings it anyway. And just like that, you're back. The Langley porch is quiet. There's no one outside, but the scent still lingers faintly in the air. You glance toward the side window. A curtain moves, just slightly. Could be the breeze. Could be someone watching. Either way, the bottle is placed gently. The empty is picked up. The routine holds. But something in you is softer now. You step off the porch and walk slowly back to the truck. The breeze has shifted again, the sugar scent gone, replaced by fresh-cut grass. But it lingers in your mouth somehow, in the back of your mind. Not the taste, but the feeling. There's something about mornings like this. When the sun catches the window in a certain way. When the air feels measured. When a smell from someone else's kitchen pulls you sideways into a memory so intact it almost feels like time lost track of you. You sit in the truck and rest your arm on the wheel for a moment. That same sense of quiet has returned, not the kind that empties a space, but the kind that fills it gently with the weight of things remembered. Not nostalgia. Not kite. More like residue, The glove box is slightly ajar. Inside, there's an old pack of gum, a bent map, and a note you don't remember writing. Langley, check cap. You pick it up, consider it. The cap is fine. Maybe it was leaking once. Maybe it was just a day when everything felt a little loose. You put the note back. Let it stay. As you turn the key, the engine coughs once, then catches. The crate rattles behind you. Another house. Another porch. Another small moment that will someday attach itself to your memory without asking permission. You drive slowly. The sun has moved again. Shadows stretch in different directions. You adjust the mirror. And for just a second, in the reflection, you catch your own face, older, softer, but still unmistakably the same kid who sat on those steps eating sugar-dusted donuts and watching the day unfold like a story that didn't need an ending. And, in the warm cab of a truck filled with glass and time, you smile. There's a house on Magnolia Avenue you've delivered to for years. A plain one. Gray siding, brown trim, nothing remarkable. But you always pause for a second longer at the front gate. Not because of the delivery. That part's easy. It's because of the smell. Magnolia, true to the name. The trees bloom wide in spring, but the scent lingers longer than it should, drifting into mid-July like it doesn't know it's overstayed. Sweet, heavy, clean. You stand there with a bottle of milk in one hand and your other resting on the rusted gate, and the thought arrives, not often, but every now and then. You were supposed to be a teacher. It wasn't a plan, exactly. More like a path you walked for a while, long enough to start seeing where it might go. You had the papers. You passed the tests. You sat in on a few classes and took notes on how not to talk down to kids. You thought about bulletin boards, about history lessons with cartoons in the margins, about bringing your own thermos and leaving the chalkboard just a little crooked on purpose. Then someone offered you part-time work hauling produce. It paid a little better. Then someone else offered you full-time work, loading dairy crates. You told yourself it was temporary. Just for the season. Then the truck came along. And you liked it. That's the thing. You liked the quiet. You liked the routine. You liked not having to explain things to anyone except the occasional barking dog or forgetful gate latch. But sometimes, standing outside a house like this one just for a moment, you think about what it would have been like. You'd probably have a drawer full of red pens, a stack of extra paperbacks with pages falling out. You'd complain about school supplies being locked up in the wrong closet, but you'd never do anything about it. You'd have a mug that said something like, "World's Okayest Teacher," and a drawer with half a bag of pretzels and someone else's rubber band ball. You imagine writing your name on the board in crooked capital letters, explaining something simple, asking someone in the back row to stop eating sunflower seeds. You wouldn't be a great teacher, maybe, but maybe you'd be someone's favorite. The kind of teacher who didn't yell, who let them doodle in the margins. Would it have mattered? That's the question that always follows. Would it have changed anything? Would you have felt more useful? More tired? More seen? There's a kind of ache that comes with unrealized plans, not sharp, not bitter. Just a soft curiosity that never goes away, like when you walk past a store you meant to visit before it closed, and now it's a dry cleaner or a vape shop, and you wonder what they used to sell. You never went back to the classroom. You never even looked for substitute work. It wasn't dramatic. You just kept driving, kept showing up. kept trading hours for routes, weeks for years. And it was fine. It's still fine. But some days, like this one, the thought doesn't ask for much. Just a minute. Just the quiet question. Would I have been any good at it? You try to imagine what your days would have looked like. Chalk dust instead of milk stains. A whistle between class periods instead of porch steps and screen doors. Colleagues with thermoses instead of cats watching from windowsills. Maybe a note in a desk drawer from a student who didn't say much in class but always nodded on their way out. There's no sadness in the imagining, just stillness, like standing in front of a locked door you never tried. Not because you were afraid, but because life tugged your sleeve and pointed elsewhere. And you went, willingly, maybe even gratefully. You know what people think about jobs like yours. That they're simple. That they're temporary. That they're for someone on their way to something else. And maybe they're right. But maybe there's something to be said for a life of uninterrupted mornings. Of knowing which porches creak and which bottles always fog up on humid days. You've been the first sound someone hears in the morning more times than you can count. The soft clink of glass, the thud of a crate on wood, the departure that comes before anyone says hello. There's a kind of grace in that, a kind of quiet usefulness. Still, it's not the only version of you that could have been real. Maybe you would have coached track, even though you hate running. Maybe you would have chaperoned one dance, then sworn never again. Maybe you would have graded tests in your car at lunch and fallen asleep with a red pen tucked behind your ear. You don't regret not becoming that version of you. You just wonder about him sometimes. Where he lives. Whether his knees hurt less. Whether he still buys donuts on Sundays or just talks about it like a tradition he never started. And if that other version of you ever stands in a classroom late after school, the floors echoing and the hallway lights flickering, maybe he thinks about a milk truck on a side road and wonders what it would have been like to spend his mornings in motion instead of standing in front of rows of chairs. You shift the bottle in your hand. The gate gives a soft squeal as you open it. The delivery is simple. 2 bottles, as usual. 1 whole. 1 chocolate. You place them gently on the step and take the note tucked under the empty. Thanks, and yes, she's feeling better. You smile without meaning to. Even the alternate versions of your life probably wouldn't have had moments like that. Back in the truck, you roll down the window. The scent of magnolia rides in again, steady and full. You breathe it in and think, maybe next year I'll plant one. You won't. But it's a nice thought. The truck hums as you coast down Main Street, early enough that the lights are still blinking yellow and the sidewalks haven't quite warmed from the sun. You've done this route so many times, you don't need the clipboard. The houses appear in the order your muscles remember. Lean right for the clutch. Brake a little early before 7th Street. Double-check the latch on the crate that always shifts on inclines. There's a stoplight at the edge of downtown, just before the hardware store. You always catch it red, no matter what. You've accepted it. Some things just are. You rest your arm on the window frame and look up. The sky's that strange pale blue that doesn't belong to any particular season, not winter, not quite spring. Just sky, holding itself up because that's its job. And without any prompting, your mind drifts forward. Not to next week, not to next year, but far. Far enough that the numbers on your calendar don't make sense anymore. Far enough that your bones would be slower, your steps uncertain, your fingers less certain with the bottles. Far enough that you'd probably be sitting instead of standing, observing instead of delivering. You wonder what happens to a route when its driver retires. Does someone new take over with the same clipboard, same names, same creaking truck? Or do the crates disappear, and the houses stop expecting the quiet knock and the glass against wood? Do the porches just forget? You've never seen a formal goodbye in this business. Just gaps where people used to be. You picture a future version of this same street. Not dramatic, no flying cars, no neon towers. Just quiete. The trees a little taller, maybe. The houses painted new colors by new people. Maybe the porch railings will finally get fixed. Or maybe they'll be gone entirely, replaced with slick concrete and intercoms. Maybe doors won't need steps at all. You wonder if people will still drink milk from bottles. Not drink milk at all. Or even know what a glass milk bottle feels like when it fogs in the morning sun. Maybe there won't be trucks anymore. Maybe drones will do the job, hovering and humming, placing cartons gently on sanitized platforms outside front doors. Efficient, sure. But would the cat on Bellevue still watch the drone the way she watches you? Would she care? You think about the tools you use every day. The lever that sticks on the passenger door, the pencil stub you keep behind the sun visor, the thermos that doesn't seal unless you twist it just right. None of it is fancy. All of it works. You wonder if someone will inherit this truck when you're done. Will they notice how the driver's seat dips a little to the left? Will they know which route to avoid on rainy days, because the slope floods halfway through? Will they understand that the porch on 9th needs a gentler touch because the second step is hollow and loud? You wonder if they'll change the route completely. If someday, this stretch of homes will no longer be part of the loop. Phased out, modernized, forgotten. Maybe the Langley house will be gone. Maybe it'll be a duplex. Or a parking lot. Maybe someone will build a convenience store where that front yard used to be, and the air will smell like asphalt and refrigeration instead of magnolia and fried dough. And maybe the boy who grows up in that future house won't know what it feels like to carry a chilled glass bottle down a gravel path. Maybe he'll drink something else entirely. Or maybe he'll find a bottle in a thrift shop one day and ask what it was used for, and someone will say, "They used to deliver these to your house." Every morning. Like a ritual. And maybe he'll laugh. Not unkindly. Just at the idea of it. And you won't be there to explain how quiet it could be. How a morning route wasn't just about milk, but about watching the day yawn open, porch by porch. You let your fingers tap the wheel in rhythm. The light's still red. The hardware store's still closed. But the shelves are probably stocked already, waiting for the front gate to slide open. You used to go in there sometimes, back when the doorbell still rang a real chime instead of that electronic beep. You bought sandpaper once. A wrench another time. Once, just a pencil sharpener, because yours finally snapped in two. The guy behind the counter told you they don't sell those anymore. Kids don't use pencils now, it's all typewriters and television. He meant calculators, but you didn't correct him. You picture that hardware store 20 years from now. Maybe it's still there. Maybe it sells something else. Maybe it's a co-working space with exposed brick and plants in repurposed coffee tins. Maybe the counter is gone, replaced by a tablet screen that tells people what aisle the screws are in. You think about walking in then, in that distant time. Maybe someone would greet you, maybe not. Maybe they'd ask what you're looking for, and you'd hesitate, not because you forgot, but because you're not sure they'd understand the answer. "I'm looking for something that squeaks," you'd say. something that sticks in cold weather, something that rattles a little when the crate's too light. They'd blink at you, offer a smile, maybe direct you to automotive, or vintage, or nowhere at all. The truck behind you honks once, soft, not angry. The light's green now. You ease your foot to the gas and start moving again. The town returns, inch by inch. Same buildings, same corners. But now, every window feels temporary. Every awning a little thinner. You wonder who'll deliver here after you. Will they notice the way the sidewalk on Fairview leans toward the road? Will they keep the pencil marks in the margins of the clipboard, or erase them all and start clean? You think about writing a letter. Not a retirement notice. Just a note. Something to leave in the glove box when you're done. Check the tire pressure after rain. Don't trust the step at 417. The cat is fine. She just looks at you like that. Maybe they'll read it. Maybe they won't. You smile at the thought. The idea that some version of you might linger in this truck even after you're gone. Not in a grand way. Just in the tilt of a mirror, or the way the crate slides into place without needing to be shoved. Maybe the truck will finally get cleaned out. The napkin stash gone. The string someone tied to the gear shift finally snipped. But maybe, just maybe, one bottle will rattle the same way. One porch will creak exactly how it always did. And maybe someone else will pause at the corner of Magnolia and wonder who used to drive this route, the same way you sometimes think about the man before you. The one who handed you the keys behind the bowling alley, asked if your back was decent, and didn't wait for a better answer. You glance down at your hands. They don't look like a teacher's hands anymore, or a student's, or even a younger man's. But they fit the wheel like they always have. The morning stretches ahead. Deliveries left. Roads to cross. Houses waiting. For now, it's still yours. But somewhere, someday, it won't be. And that's okay. You pull up to a quiet stretch of houses on Willow Street, the part of town where every lawn seems exactly 2 days from needing a mow. The mailboxes here lean with a kind of personality, not sloppy, just settled. The street itself hums with stillness. No barking. No movement behind windows. Just the low breeze brushing against hedges and the faint echo of a screen door a few blocks off. You put the truck in park and lean back for a second before reaching for the crate. And in that moment, that quiet inhale between tasks, your mind does what it sometimes does. It wanders. What if the bottles never needed restocking? Not in a science fiction way. No glowing blue caps, no weird humming noises. Just, they stayed full. You drop one off, and by morning, it's back in the crate, perfectly chilled, label still dewy like it just came out of the icebox. Nobody knows how. You don't question it. You just keep moving. Or maybe it's the truck. Maybe the truck knows the route better than you do. You sit behind the wheel, touch nothing, and it rumbles forward, turning itself down each street like a horse that knows the trail. Slows at the right spots. Brakes, gently. Pauses just long enough at each gate for you to hop out, make the swap, and return. You picture it idling at a curb while you fumble with a gate latch, giving a little cough of impatience if you take too long. Not mean, just opinionated. Or maybe the crates are smarter than they look. Maybe they know which houses need whole milk and which ones switched to skim last week. Maybe they organize themselves overnight. You go to bed with them in disarray and wake up to perfect rows, labels facing out like little soldiers. It's not magic, exactly. Just helpful nonsense. Armless daydreaming. Sometimes, you let yourself believe the truck has a compartment you haven't discovered. Something small. Just big enough to hold an extra pair of gloves, or a candy bar you forgot about, or the wrench you keep misplacing. One day, it'll rattle in just the right way, and the panel will shift, and there it'll be, the thing you didn't know you still had. And once in a while, on mornings like this, when the sun's soft and the air smells faintly of distant rain, you let yourself imagine a porch that doesn't exist, a house you don't deliver to, no address, no mailbox, just a little structure at the end of a road you don't usually turn down. In this fantasy, the path is gravel, the gate swings easy, and the porch has a chair with a blanket draped over the back. There's a note waiting for you, nothing dramatic, just a thank you in neat handwriting. Inside the house, a kettle whistles faintly. You'll never go in. You'll never meet the person. But the milk you leave is always gone the next day, and the note changes slightly. Sometimes it says, "Perfect weather today," or "Thanks for not waking the dog." That house doesn't exist, but you visit it sometimes in your mind. There's also the fantasy, and you know it's ridiculous, that one of the houses on your route is hiding something extraordinary. A laboratory in the basement. A wall that rotates. A bookshelf that's not really a bookshelf. You don't want to uncover it. You just like the idea that it's there. That Mrs. Kelly on Monroe Street might have an entire train set under her floorboards, running through miniature towns you'll never see. And of course, there's the dream that the truck radio actually works. Not just sputters static or picks up farm reports from 3 counties over, but plays music. Your music. Songs you forgot you liked. Ones that remind you of nothing and everything. It just turns on one day, perfectly clear, no tuning needed. And it stays like that, only for you. You smile at the thought, even as your fingers grasp the handle of the crate and lift it from the floor. The weight is familiar. You know it without thinking. 3 full, 1 empty. Enough to make the walk feel like something. You step down from the truck, shoes crunching gently on the road's shoulder. The sidewalk's uneven here, a few slabs raised by tree roots, as if nature wanted to add some character to suburbia. The porch ahead is faded blue, chipped at the edges. Someone's left a ceramic duck beside the door, wearing a tiny scarf. You've never seen anyone change its outfit, but it always seems seasonally accurate. Maybe the duck dresses itself. Wouldn't that be something? As you reach the steps, you catch yourself thinking, what if the bottles could talk? Not in sentences, you don't want that. Just a sound. A little chime when they're ready to be picked up. A quiet note when they're happy to be dropped off. Like they're saying, "Here we are," or "Thanks, we'll take it from here." You place the full bottle down gently. It doesn't make a sound, just settles against the wood, steady and still. Back in the truck, you wipe your palms against your pants and glance at the rearview mirror. The sky's clouded slightly now, not enough to darken the day, just enough to mute it. The kind of cloud that holds light without releasing it. You think of another silly wish, that the windshield would show you what's ahead not in miles, but in moments. Not where the next house is, but what small thing might happen there. A bird on the railing. A note under a flower pot. A neighbor you haven't seen in months waving from across the yard. None of these things are real. None of them will happen. But there's comfort in the softness of the thinking, in knowing your mind still wanders, even on routes you've driven 1,000 times. Even on mornings when your hands move automatically, your boots scuff the same corners of the same steps, and the truck's seat creaks in all the expected places. There's a kind of magic in the ordinary. Not the dramatic kind. Just the quiet variety. The kind that hums under everything, unnoticed unless you slow down long enough to feel it. And right now, for a little while, you do. The road narrows as you approach the last house on your route, the truck humming gently beneath you, tires brushing the edge of the lane where gravel meets soft earth. The morning has lengthened without you noticing. Shadows are thinner now. The birds that greeted the sun have quieted, replaced by the low drone of insects waking slowly in warm grass. You park in front of a small white house with a crooked porch and a mailbox held together by a hopeful amount of tape. The crate in the back is nearly empty. 2 bottles left, both whole milk. You don't need to check the clipboard. This house always gets 2. The air is still. The breeze that carried kitchen smells and distant dogs earlier has disappeared, replaced by a kind of steady hush. Even the truck, once idling with its usual clatter, seems to understand it's time to settle. You open the door slowly. The hinge lets out a sound you've heard 100 times. Familiar. Not sharp. Just a soft reminder that the day isn't over, but close enough. Your boots touch the dirt path, scuffing the powdery dust. The porch boards creak under your step, a creak you know by weight and rhythm. You place the bottles beside the door. They settle with a gentle thud, a little shift of glass against glass. And then you stop. You don't rush back to the truck. There's nothing urgent waiting. No next delivery. No clipboard to fill in. Just air, wood, and time. You sit. There's a chair on the porch, the folding kind with a frayed cushion, and one bent leg that leans if you shift too far to the left. You don't shift. You just let yourself rest, arms loose over the sides, your back curved the way it always does after a full route. Your eyes drift toward the sky. The clouds are high, thin, stretched like pulled cotton, pale white against pale blue. Everything looks softer now. Nothing sharp. Nothing loud. You notice the warmth of the cushion beneath you, the way it holds a little of the sun, the texture of your sleeves against your forearms, the weight of your shoulders slowly receding, not from effort, but from the absence of it. A bee wanders past, not close enough to startle, just near enough to remind you that the world is still moving, even now, even here. Somewhere in the distance, a lawn sprinkler clicks to life. The sound of water tapping leaves, tapping pavement. Rhythmic. Gentle. Then it cuts off. Silence again. You breathe in, and the air feels slow. Your hands rest against your legs, fingers splayed. Not gripping, not reaching. Just there. You notice the lines on your knuckles. The faint chill where the bottle handle used to be. The absence of it now. You close your eyes for a moment. Behind your eyelids, there's no color. Just dim light. The kind that feels like early morning, even when it isn't. Your breath softens, chest rising and falling with less intention. Like your body is finally following the day's lead. The scent of the porch wood rises faintly, old pine, sun-warmed and dusted. You imagine it's always smelled this way. even before you knew this house, even before you drove this route. It feels older than you. Time begins to thin at the edges. You're not thinking of other routes, other jobs, other versions of yourself. You're not wondering about tomorrow's schedule, or whether the truck needs gas, or if the next crate needs new padding. Those thoughts have quieted, gone where idle thoughts go when they've done enough. You hear a screen door creak open somewhere inside, but no one comes out. Just the creak. Then the soft sound of someone shifting. Then nothing. Even the sounds respect the quiet now. You stay in the chair, motionless but not stiff, letting the air move around you, letting the porch hold you without question, letting the light do what it does, slide gently along your sleeve, catch the curve of your hand, bounce softly off the glass bottles you left by the door. And, little by little, even thought begins to dissolve. No story plays in your head. No internal commentary. Just space. Just warmth. Just the faint pressure of your boots against the porch floor. The hum of the truck drifts into the background. Less an engine now, more a soft memory of motion. Like an echo from somewhere deeper in the day. Your breath deepens. The muscles around your eyes go slack. The corners of your mouth settle into stillness. Not a frown. Not a smile. Just the shape of a face without anything to hold. You are not the milkman right now. Not the driver. Not the visitor. Not the version of yourself that wondered about the future, or the version that once studied to be something else. You are only stillness in a chair on a warm porch. Breath. Skin. Fabric. Light. And slowly, even the idea of you lets go. There is no conclusion. No decision to rise, or reflect, or remember. No farewell to the route. No nod to the house. No last look at the truck. There is only the gentle blending of self with air. Wood grain with palm. Sunlight with breath. And the faint hum of the world as it continues on, softened and steady, until nothing is left but the quiet